wolf was dying. Evelyn could smell it, the bitter copper of blood mixing with burned flesh, the acrid stench of silver poisoning seeping into bone. The chains wrapped around him weren't ordinary restraints. They were meant to torture, to kill slowly. She stumbled backward, her basket of herbs scattering across the forest floor. The white wolf's eyes found hers through the darkness, molten gold fading to ash. His breathing came in shallow, rattling gasps. Someone had left him here, chained to die alone. Why? Her hands shook. She shouldn't be here. Omegas didn't wander this deep into the Blackwood forest, especially not after dark. Especially not her. Evelyn, the packless, the unwanted, the girl whose own family had turned their backs when she presented without strength, without rank, without value. The wolf made a sound, not a growl, a whimper. It shattered something inside her chest. "I see you," she whispered, dropping to her knees in the dirt. The silver chains glowed, faintly in the moonlight, obscene against his white fur. "I see you." His eyes closed, surrendering. No. Evelyn's fingers found the first chain. The moment she touched it, pain exploded through her hand. Silver-burned Omegas worst of all, their skin too sensitive, their wolves too weak to fight the poison. She bit down on her lip until she tasted blood, swallowing her scream. She didn't let go. "I won't leave you," she gasped, tears streaming down her face as she worked at the lock. Her skin blistered. The wolf's breathing grew weaker. I won't let you die alone." The chain fell away, then another, then another. By the time the last silver link hit the ground, Evelyn couldn't feel her hands. She collapsed beside the wolf, sobbing, cradling her burned palms against her chest. She'd done it. She'd freed him. She just hoped it wasn't too late. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the air changed. The wolf's body began to glow. Bright, blinding, ancient. Evelyn scrambled backward as his form shifted, bones cracking and reforming, white fur receding into pale skin. She should run. She should hide. But her body wouldn't move, couldn't move, because the magic pouring off him felt like standing at the edge of the world. When the light faded, a man lay where the wolf had been. Not just any man. He was tall, powerfully built, his bare skin marked with scars that looked like they'd been earned in war. Dark hair fell across a face that was almost cruel in its beauty. Sharp jawline, high cheekbones, lips pressed into a hard line. But it was his eyes that stopped her breath. Those same molten gold eyes, now human, now conscious, now looking directly at her. "You freed me," he said. His voice was rough, broken from disuse and pain. He tried to sit up and failed, his strength not yet returned. Why? Evelyn's heart hammered against her ribs. She recognized him now. Everyone in every pack across every territory would recognize him. Ethan Blackthorn, the Alpha King, the most powerful shifter alive. And she'd just seen him chained like an animal, left to die in the dirt. Her voice failed. She tried again. "You were suffering." Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or disbelief. "You're an Omega." It wasn't a question. He could scent it on her, the undeniable mark of her rank. "You touched silver chains. For me." She looked down at her hands. They were ruined, red and blistered, skin peeling away in places she didn't want to examine. The pain was starting to cut through the shock, sharp and relentless. "I couldn't leave you," she whispered. Silence stretched between them. When she finally dared to look up, his expression had changed. The hardness was still there, but underneath it, something else, something raw. What's your name? Evelyn. Evelyn. He repeated it slowly, like he was tasting each syllable. I am in your debt. You don't owe me anything. She forced herself to stand, even though her legs shook, even though every instinct screamed at her to bow, to submit, to show throat to an alpha whose power made the air itself feel heavy. You're free now. That's enough. She turned to leave. Wait. The command in his voice froze her mid-step. Not compulsion. He wasn't using his alpha authority, but the word still hit like a physical force. Your hands. They need treatment. I'll manage. Evelyn. Softer this time. Almost gentle. Please. She'd never heard an alpha say please, not to her, not to any Omega. Slowly she turned back. Ethan had managed to sit up now, though the effort clearly cost him. His eyes never left her face as he held out one hand, an offering, not an order. Let me see. She shouldn't. She should run back to the village, forget this ever happened, bury this night so deep that not even her dreams could find it. Helping the Alpha King would bring questions, attention, danger. But his eyes held something she recognized. Loneliness. Evelyn placed her burned hands in his. His touch was careful, reverent. As he examined the damage, his jaw tightened. When he looked up at her again, there was anger in his gaze, but not directed at her. You did this for a stranger. You're not a stranger anymore. A muscle jumped in his cheek. For a moment she thought he might say something, but instead he closed his eyes and took a slow breath. When he opened them again, they glowed with his wolf. I'm going to heal you, he said quietly. It will hurt first, then better. Do you trust me? No one had ever asked her that before. Yes. He brought her hands to his chest, pressing her burned palms against his bare skin. Power flooded through the connection. His alpha energy, potent and overwhelming, pouring into her small Omega form like light into shadow. She gasped. It did hurt, a searing pain that made her vision white out. But beneath it came something else. Warmth, healing, the feeling of being seen fully and completely by someone who understood suffering. When he finally released her, her hands were whole. Evelyn stared at them, trembling. The scars remained, faint silver lines across her palms where the chains had burned deepest. But the pain was gone. She flexed her fingers in wonder. Why did you leave the scars? Ethan's expression was unreadable. Because you earned them. What you did tonight. He paused, something almost like awe crossing his features. No one has shown me that kind of mercy in a very long time. Those scars are proof of your courage, your compassion. Don't hide them. Tears burned behind her eyes. She blinked them back. Who did this to you? She asked. Who chained the Alpha King and left him to die? His face shuddered immediately, walls slamming into place. That's not your concern. You asked me to trust you, and you did. It doesn't mean I owe you my secrets. The words stung more than they should have, but Evelyn had spent her whole life learning when to push and when to retreat. She nodded once and stepped back. I should go. The village. They'll notice I'm gone. What village? Greyvale, at the forest edge. His eyes sharpened. Greyvale is under my protection. Who is your alpha? I don't have one. The admission tasted like ash. I was released from my pack obligations. I live alone now. She saw the moment understanding dawned. Released. The polite word for rejected cast out, deemed unworthy of pack bonds. Shame heated her cheeks, but she lifted her chin anyway. Ethan stood in one fluid motion, and suddenly she was reminded of exactly who, what, he was. power radiated from him like heat from a forge. Even weakened, even barely recovered, he was magnificent, terrifying. "That changes things," he said softly. "What do you mean?" "It means you have no alpha to answer to, no pack to protect you." He moved closer, and she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. "It means you're vulnerable. And after tonight, after what you witnessed, there are those who would hurt you to get to me." Fear trickled down her spine. "I won't tell anyone I saw you." "I know you won't." His hand came up slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His fingers brushed her cheek, the touch feather-light. "But they'll know anyway. They'll smell me on you, my power, my gratitude." His thumb traced her jawline, and her breath caught. "My interest. I don't understand. You saved my life, Evelyn. That creates a bond, a debt that runs deeper than politics or rank." His eyes searched hers. "I can't leave you unprotected. I won't. I've been unprotected my whole life. Not anymore." The finality in his tone sent her heart racing. "What are you saying? Come with me, to the capital, to Silver Peak." He must have seen her fear because his expression softened slightly. "Not as a prisoner, as my guest, under my protection, just until I understand who betrayed me and why. I'm an Omega. I don't belong in the Alpha King's court. You belong wherever you choose to be." His intensity pinned her in place. "And right now, the safest place for you is beside me." Evelyn's mind raced. This was insane. She'd come to the forest to gather herbs, and now the Alpha King himself was offering her protection, asking her to enter a world she'd never been allowed to touch. Everything in her screamed to refuse, to stay small and invisible like she'd been taught. But when had small and invisible ever kept her safe? When had following the rules ever earned her anything but pain? She looked at Ethan, really looked at him. Beneath the power and the crown and the title, she saw what she'd seen in the wolf's dying eyes. Isolation, the weight of a throne no one could share, a man who'd been betrayed by someone close enough to bind him with silver, someone who understood what it meant to be alone. "How long?" she asked. "As long as it takes. And then you're free to go, or stay. Your choice. Always your choice." The fact that he kept saying that, "your choice," made something crack open in her chest. No one ever let Omegas choose. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll come with you." Relief washed over his face, so profound it made him look almost young. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. I'm probably going to be terrible at court politics." The corner of his mouth lifted, not quite a smile, but close. "Good. I'm tired of people who are good at them." The journey to Silver Peak took 3 days. Ethan recovered his strength quickly, his wolf healing the last traces of silver poisoning as they traveled. He'd used some kind of magic to summon clothes and supplies, and he moved through the forest like he owned it, which technically he did. Every tree, every stream, every rock in the Blackwood fell under the Alpha King's domain. Evelyn watched him from a careful distance, trying to reconcile the dying wolf she'd freed with this powerful, remote stranger. He barely spoke to her during the journey. At night, he kept watch, while she slept, his golden eyes glowing in the darkness like twin moons. During the day, he walked ahead, his shoulders tense, his jaw locked. She told herself it didn't hurt, that she hadn't expected anything different. He was the Alpha King. She was no one. The bond he'd mentioned was probably just obligation, not true connection. But sometimes she'd catch him looking at her when he thought she wasn't paying attention. and the expression on his face made her chest ache with something she couldn't name. On the third morning, they crested a hill, and Silver Peak appeared before them. Evelyn stopped breathing. The capital was carved into the mountainside itself, white stone buildings rising in elegant tiers toward a palace that seemed to touch the clouds. Waterfalls cascaded down the cliffs, creating rainbows in the morning light. Banners bearing the blackthorn crest, a white wolf on a black field, flew from every tower. It was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. "Come," Ethan said quietly, "before the sentries spot us. I need to enter quietly." She followed him down a hidden path that led to a small gate in the outer wall. He pressed his hand against the stone and it opened, revealing a narrow tunnel. "Where does this lead?" "Private entrance to my quarters. No guards, no witnesses." He glanced back at her. "You'll be safe there until I can make arrangements." The tunnel was dark and cool, lit by crystals that glowed with soft blue light. Their footsteps echoed off the stone. Evelyn's heart pounded harder with each step, reality finally sinking in. She was in the Alpha King's palace, walking through his secret passages, about to enter his private chambers. This was really happening. The tunnel opened into a room that stole her breath for the second time that morning. It was massive, high ceilings, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the mountains, furnishings that managed to be both elegant and comfortable. But what struck her most was how empty it felt, like a museum, not a home. Ethan moved to a side door and pulled out clean clothes. "There's a bathing room through there. Take your time. I'll have food sent up." "Ethan." He turned, surprise flickering across his face. She'd never used his name before. "What happens now?" she asked. His expression closed off again, that familiar wall slamming into place. "Now I figure out which member of my inner circle tried to kill me, and I keep you alive while I do it." "That's not what I meant. I know." He looked away. "But it's the only answer I can give you right now." He left before she could respond. Evelyn stood alone in the Alpha King's chambers, her reflection staring back at her from a dozen polished surfaces. She looked tiny in this space, out of place, wrong. But her hands, her healed hands with their silver scars, reminded her that she'd chosen this. She'd chosen to help, to be brave, to matter. She wouldn't regret it now. The court was a battlefield disguised as a ballroom. Evelyn learned this within hours of Ethan's formal return. He'd announced his survival to the council that afternoon, and the palace had erupted into controlled chaos. Everyone wanted to know where he'd been, who'd helped him, why he'd disappeared without explanation. He told them nothing, but he'd done something that sent shockwaves through the entire kingdom. He'd declared Evelyn under his personal protection, given her a title, Heart's Ward, assigned her rooms in the royal wing, made it clear that any insult to her would be considered an insult to him. The other Alphas looked at her like she was a snake in their midst. The Omegas looked at her with bitter envy, and Ethan looked at her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. She sat now in the formal dining hall, surrounded by wolves who could kill her with a thought, picking at food she couldn't taste. Ethan sat at the head of the table in his rightful place, every inch the commanding king. But she'd seen him dying in the dirt. She couldn't forget that, no matter how many jewels adorned his crown. "Tell us, Evelyn," a silky voice said from her left. She turned to find a beautiful woman with red hair and sharp green eyes watching her. Lady Cordelia, one of Ethan's advisors. "How exactly did you come to meet our king?" The table went quiet. Evelyn's throat went dry. They'd agreed she wouldn't share details of that night, but she hadn't prepared for a direct interrogation. I found him injured in the forest, she said carefully. I offered assistance. How fortunate. Cordelia's smile didn't reach her eyes. And what was an Omega doing alone in the Blackwood? That's quite dangerous, isn't it? I was gathering herbs. Alone? Without pack protection? I don't have a pack, whispers rippled around the table. Cordelia's smile widened. Ah, yes. I heard you were… What's the kind term? Unbound. She leaned closer. Forgive my bluntness, dear, but doesn't that make you somewhat untrustworthy? After all, if your own pack rejected you… Enough. Ethan's voice cut through the room like a blade. Every head turned toward him. His eyes had gone wolf gold, fixed on Cordelia with lethal focus. You will not question her character at my table. Your Majesty, I meant no offense. You meant every offense. He stood, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. Evelyn is under my protection. That means she is beyond your speculation, your judgment, and your petty power plays. Am I clear? Cordelia's face went pale. Yes, Your Majesty. Good. Now apologize. She swallowed hard. I apologize, Evelyn. Evelyn nodded stiffly, her heart in her throat. She felt every eye on her, measuring, calculating. This was what she'd feared, being a piece in games she didn't understand. Ethan sat back down, his expression glacial. The meal continued in uncomfortable silence. Later, after she'd escaped to her rooms, there was a knock on her door. Ethan entered without waiting for permission, and she was struck again by how much space he took up, not just physically but energetically, like reality bent around him. I'm sorry, he said without preamble. She blinked. For what? For putting you in that position. Cordelia was out of line. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. The court is complicated. There are factions, alliances, old grudges. Everyone wants something. What do they want from you? Power, influence, my favor. He met her eyes. My weakness. And they think I'm that? Your weakness? They think you're an anomaly. An Omega with access to the king. No pack loyalty to leverage. No political history to exploit. His jaw tightened. They're trying to figure out how to use you. Or remove me. He moved closer, and she saw anger flash in his eyes. No one will touch you. I've made that clear. You can't watch me every moment. Watch me try. The intensity of his statement made her breath catch. For a long moment, they just looked at each other. Then, Evelyn did something brave. She closed the distance between them and placed her hand on his chest, right over his heart. His sharp inhale told her he felt it too, that pull, that connection. Why am I really here, Ethan? And don't tell me it's just about protection. His hand came up to cover hers, holding it against his chest. His heartbeat thundered beneath her palm. Because when you touch those chains, he said quietly, when you chose pain to free a dying wolf, you didn't even know. You broke something in me, something I'd built to survive. His other hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. I've been Alpha King for 12 years. I've made impossible decisions. Sacrificed people I cared about for the greater good. Built walls so high I forgot what it felt like to let someone in. And then, she whispered, and then an Omega with kind eyes and a brave heart reminded me that mercy still exists, that compassion isn't weakness. His eyes searched hers, desperately. You terrify me, Evelyn, because you make me want things I can't have. What things? To be seen as just a man, to be chosen for who I am, not what I represent. He leaned his forehead against hers. To keep you. Her heart cracked open. Ethan, I know I shouldn't say these things. You're under my protection. The power imbalance. is why you keep asking if I want to leave, she finished. Because you're trying to be honorable. I'm trying not to trap you the way I'm trapped. She pulled back enough to meet his eyes. What if I'm already choosing to stay? Hope and fear warred across his features. You don't know what you're saying. Life here, it's politics and danger and loneliness. I've been lonely my whole life. At least here, I'm lonely with purpose. She smiled sadly. And I'm not alone when I'm with you. His control shattered. He pulled her close, not in passion but in need, holding her like she was the only thing keeping him anchored to the earth. She wrapped her arms around him and felt him shake. I don't know how to do this, he admitted against her hair. I don't know how to want someone without destroying them. Then we learn together. He held her for a long time, neither speaking. Outside, the moon rose over Silver Peak, painting everything silver, and in the shadows, enemies watched. The attack came 2 weeks later. Evelyn was in the library, lost in a book about pack history, when she heard the screams. She ran to the window and froze. Wolves, dozens of them, pouring into the palace courtyard. But these weren't guards or visitors. Their eyes glowed red with blood frenzy, and they moved with unnatural coordination. Someone had sent rabid wolves into the heart of Silver Peak. Her door burst open. Marcus, one of Ethan's guards, stood there with blood on his face. We need to move, now. What's happening? Coordinated attack. They're targeting the king's wing. His eyes were grim. They're targeting you. Fear spiked through her, but she forced it down. Where's Ethan? Fighting in the great hall. He ordered me to get you to the safe room. No. Evelyn, if they want me, I'm not going to hide while others die protecting me. She pushed past him into the corridor. Where are the attackers concentrated? You can't be serious. Marcus, I'm an Omega. They'll underestimate me. Where? He cursed but pointed. East Wing, but she was already running. The palace was chaos. Servants fled screaming. Guards fought desperately against wolves that shouldn't exist. Rabid shifters were mercy killed immediately. They were too far gone to save, too dangerous to contain. Someone had weaponized them. Someone who knew it would force Ethan to kill his own people. Evelyn ducked into a side passage, her mind racing. The East Wing housed the council chambers. If the attackers were concentrated there, they were after something specific. Information. Or someone. She burst into the council room and stopped, dead. Lady Cordelia stood in the center of the chaos, her eyes glowing red, not with rabies, with magic, dark magic that made the air taste like rot. Well, Cordelia purred, spotting her. The little Omega walks right into my trap. How convenient. Evelyn's blood ran cold. You did this. You chained Ethan in the forest. You sent him to die. Very good. Cordelia's smile was poison. Though I admit I didn't account for a bleeding heart Omega finding him. That was unfortunate. Why? Because he doesn't deserve the throne. The words came out in a snarl. He's weak, soft. He refuses to expand our territory, to take what's rightfully ours. Under his rule, we've become passive, pathetic. You mean he refuses to wage war for your ambition? I mean he's forgotten what it means to be a predator. Cordelia's power flared, and Evelyn stumbled back. But you've made him even weaker. He cares about you, which makes you the perfect leverage. Too late, Evelyn realized she'd made a terrible mistake. She'd run straight into danger without thinking, without backup, without the wall exploded. Ethan crashed through in full wolf form, massive, white as snow, eyes blazing with protective fury. He put himself between Evelyn and Cordelia, his growl shaking the foundations. Cordelia laughed. There he is, the mighty king, ready to sacrifice everything for one worthless Omega. She raised her hands, dark magic crackling between her fingers. Exactly as predicted. Ethan, it's a trap. The magic hit him like a physical blow, driving him to his knees. Silver chains materialized from nowhere, wrapping around his wolf form. The same chains Evelyn had cut away in the forest. Did you really think I wouldn't plan for this? Cordelia advanced on him. The chains are keyed to your wolf now. Every time you shift, every time you use your power, they'll appear. They'll bind you. And eventually, they'll kill you. Ethan shifted back to human form, but the chains remained, burning into his skin. He didn't make a sound, but Evelyn saw the agony in his eyes. Let him go. She threw herself forward, not caring about the danger. Your fight is with him, not... Cordelia's power caught her mid-step, lifting her off the ground. On the contrary, little Omega, you're exactly who this is about, the king's precious weakness. She drew Evelyn closer, magic tightening around her throat. Say goodbye to her, Ethan. Let her be your final failure. Stop. Ethan's voice was destroyed, broken by pain and fury. Please, she's innocent in this. She made herself involved the moment she freed you. Then punish me, not her. Oh, I am, Cordelia smiled. This is your punishment, watching her die knowing you can't save her. The magic constricted. Evelyn couldn't breathe. Her vision started to tunnel. Then she felt it. The connection between her and Ethan, that bond forged in the forest. It flared to life like a struck match. His power poured into her, not to control, but to share, to give her what she needed. Strength. Her Omega wolf, dormant and weak her whole life, suddenly blazed with borrowed light. She grabbed the magic around her throat and pulled, using Ethan's power like a sword. Cordelia's eyes widened in shock. That's not possible. Evelyn tore free and hit the ground running. She didn't go for Cordelia. She went for Ethan. Her hands found the chains, and this time she wasn't just an Omega helping a dying wolf. She was Pack. She was his. And the chains recognized it. They shattered. Ethan surged to his feet, power exploding outward in a wave that shook the entire palace. When he looked at Cordelia, his eyes held the promise of death. You made a mistake, he said softly. You threatened what's mine. What happened next was brutal and swift. Cordelia tried to fight, but she'd spent her power on the chains and the attack. Ethan showed her no mercy. When it was over, silence fell across the palace. Evelyn stood among the rubble, shaking, hardly believing she was alive. Ethan turned to her, still half wild, still radiating lethal power. Then he crossed the distance between them and pulled her into his arms. Never again, he said against her hair. Never again do you run toward danger for me. You ran toward danger for me first. That's different. No, it's not. He pulled back just enough to cup her face in his hands. Blood streaked his skin. Exhaustion shadowed his eyes. But when he looked at her, she saw something that made her heart stop. Devotion. You're right, he said quietly. It's not different. We're the same. Fools who would burn the world for each other. Ethan, let me finish. His thumb brushed her cheek. I brought you here for protection, to keep you safe while I hunted traitors. But somewhere between the forest and now, you stopped being my responsibility. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. You became my reason. Tears spilled down her face. I don't know what to say. Say you'll stay, not because of duty or debt or obligation, but because you choose this. Choose me. Choose us. The court will never accept. I don't care about the court. I care about you." He leaned his forehead against hers. "I'm asking you to be my equal, my partner, my—" "Queen?" The word escaped before she could stop it. He went still. "I was going to say mate, but yes, queen too, if you'll have me." Evelyn's laugh came out broken. "I'm an Omega, a rejected, packless Omega. I can't be queen. You saved my life. Twice. You ran into danger to protect me. You shattered chains with borrowed power and more courage than any alpha I've ever known." His eyes burned into hers. "You're the strongest person I've ever met, the kindest, the bravest. And if you think your rank makes you unworthy of a crown, you don't understand what true strength is. The council can accept it or leave. I'm done letting others dictate my life." He pulled back to look at her fully. "But I need to know this is what you want, not what you think you should want, not what I'm asking you to want, what you want." Evelyn closed her eyes, letting herself feel everything. The fear, the hope, the terrifying, exhilarating possibility of being chosen, of choosing herself. When she opened her eyes again, she knew her answer. "I want you," she said. "I want this. I want to stand beside you and prove that strength comes in more forms than anyone ever taught us. I want to be your queen, your mate, your partner in whatever comes next. Even knowing it won't be easy. Especially knowing that." His smile broke like dawn. "Then let me do this right." He stepped back, and in front of the assembled guards who'd arrived too late, in front of the ruined council chamber, in front of witnesses who would carry this story across the kingdom, he knelt. The Alpha King knelt before an Omega. "Evelyn," he said, voice ringing with certainty, "I claim you as my mate, my chosen, my queen. Not because of rank or tradition, but because you are the other half of my soul. Do you accept?" She knelt too, meeting him at eye level. "Equal." "I accept," she whispered, "and I claim you in return, my mate, my king, my partner." The bond snapped into place like a key turning in a lock, so powerful it drove them both to their knees. Gold light surrounded them, his alpha power and her omega heart combining into something neither could be alone. When it faded, Evelyn felt different, stronger, like she'd finally stepped into a skin that fit. Ethan helped her to her feet, never taking his eyes from hers. "The court will demand a ceremony. Then we'll give them one. They'll talk. Let them." He smiled, really smiled, bright and unguarded. "I love you." The words hit her like a gift. "I love you too." He kissed her then, in front of everyone, claiming her publicly and without shame. And when they finally broke apart, she saw the guards kneeling, every single one of them, showing respect to their new queen. It wasn't acceptance, not yet, but it was a beginning. The coronation took place 1 month later. The council had fought it. The other alphas had threatened to withdraw their support. Pack leaders from across the kingdom sent angry letters questioning Ethan's judgment. He'd ignored them all. Standing now in her chambers, Evelyn barely recognized herself in the mirror. The gown was silver, a deliberate choice, a reclamation of the metal that had once meant death, now transformed into beauty. Her hair was crowned with moonflowers. Her hands, with their silver scars, were adorned with rings that marked her as Ethan's mate. But what made her catch her breath wasn't the finery. It was the look in her own eyes. Confident, strong, certain. She'd spent her whole life being told she wasn't enough, wasn't strong enough, important enough, worthy enough. And somewhere along the way, she'd believed it. Not anymore. A knock on the door. Ethan entered and her breath caught. He wore black and silver, his crown already in place. looking every inch the powerful king he was. "Ready?" he asked softly. "Terrified?" "Good, me too." She laughed despite herself. The Alpha King is terrified? The Alpha King is about to crown an Omega as his queen in front of a court that wants her gone. He crossed to her and took her hands. "So yes, terrified, but also certain. Because you deserve this, Evelyn. Not because of me, but because of who you are. I hope the kingdom sees that too." "They will." He pressed a kiss to her forehead. "Give them time. Give them you. They'll have no choice but to see what I see." Together they walked to the great hall. The crowd fell silent when they entered. Hundreds of wolves from every pack, every territory, watching as their king led an Omega to the throne. Evelyn felt their judgment like physical weight, pressing down on her shoulders. But Ethan's hand in hers was steady, warm, unshakable. He'd promised to stand beside her. She'd promised the same. Neither would break. They reached the dual thrones at the hall's center. Tradition dictated she should stand below, waiting to be elevated. Ethan had rewritten that tradition. The thrones sat level, equal, side by side. The high priest stepped forward, ancient and weathered, his eyes unreadable. He'd served 3 Alpha Kings before Ethan. He'd never crowned a queen who wasn't born Alpha. "We gather today," his voice rang out, "to witness a coronation unlike any in our history." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Evelyn kept her chin high. "King Ethan Blackthorn has chosen a mate, an Omega, a wolf without pack, without bloodline, without fear," Ethan interrupted, his voice cutting clear and sharp. "Without cruelty, without the poison of ambition that infected my own council." He turned to face the assembled court. "Evelyn didn't save my life because she wanted power. She saved it because suffering offended her, because mercy mattered more than safety. Because when everyone else would have walked away, she stayed." He looked at her then, and the raw emotion in his eyes made her chest ache. "She is the strongest wolf I've ever known," he continued, "and if you can't see that, then you don't understand what strength truly is." Silence fell across the great hall. The high priest cleared his throat. "Your Majesty, the sacred texts are clear about the requirements for... The sacred texts were written by Alphas, for Alphas, in a time when we believed rank determined worth." Ethan's power flared, making the air shimmer. "We were wrong. I won't perpetuate that lie. You risk division, civil unrest. I risk honesty, evolution, a kingdom that values compassion as much as conquest." He glanced at Evelyn. "She taught me that. She'll teach us all." The priest studied them both for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. "Very well. If the king is certain, I've never been more certain of anything." The priest lifted the second crown. Delicate silver, filigree, woven with moonflowers, designed specifically for Evelyn. It caught the light, scattering rainbows across the hall. "Evelyn," the priest intoned, "do you swear to lead with wisdom, to protect the weak, to honor the bond between Alpha and Omega, predator and pack?" Her voice rang clear. "I do." "Do you swear to stand beside your king in prosperity and crisis, to be his conscience when power threatens to corrupt, to remind him, and all of us, that mercy is not weakness?" "I do." "Then by the authority vested in me by moon and mountain, by blood and bone." The crown lowered onto her head. "I name you queen." The weight settled, cool against her brow, real, undeniable. Ethan took her hand and raised it high. "Your queen." For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then one guard dropped to his knee, then another, then 10 more. The wave spread through the hall. Not everyone, Not even most, but enough. Enough to matter. Those who remained standing watched with hard eyes, but they didn't challenge. Not here, not now. Evelyn knew this wasn't over. She'd made enemies simply by existing. But she'd also made a statement that would echo through every pack, every territory, every Omega who'd been told they were less. She was their proof that rank didn't determine destiny. That night, after the ceremonies and the feasts and the endless political maneuvering, Evelyn stood on the balcony overlooking Silver Peak. The city sparkled below, oblivious to the revolution taking place in its palace. Ethan joined her, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Regrets?" he asked softly. She leaned back against him. "Not even one. Liar. I can feel your anxiety through the bond." She smiled despite herself. The mate bond made hiding impossible. Not regrets, just awareness of how hard this will be. We'll face it together. Some of those alphas will never accept me. Then they'll learn to work around their prejudice or find themselves irrelevant. His chin rested on her shoulder. "You're not alone in this, Evelyn. You never will be again." Tears pricked her eyes. "A month ago, I was gathering herbs in the forest. Now I'm a queen. A month ago, I was dying in silver chains. Now I'm alive." He turned her to face him. "You changed everything. For me. For yourself. Soon for the whole kingdom." "You give me too much credit." "You don't give yourself enough." His thumb traced her jaw. "But you will. I'll spend every day reminding you who you are until you finally believe it." She kissed him then, soft and slow, tasting hope and promise and the future they'd build together. When they pulled apart, she looked down at her hands. The silver scars caught moonlight, a permanent reminder of where this had all begun. "I'm glad I kept them," she said quietly. "The scars? The proof that I chose courage, that I saw someone suffering and didn't look away." She met his eyes. "That I chose you. And I chose you." He brought her scarred palm to his lips. "My brave, beautiful queen." From somewhere in the city below, a wolf howled, long and mournful, calling to the moon. Another answered, then another, the ancient song of their people, unchanged for millennia. But its meaning had shifted tonight, because an Omega wore a crown, and the kingdom would never be the same. The end.